Good morning and welcome everyone. Hey, this is Office Hours with AvaTax, and I'm Ted Spence. I'm the director of the AvaTax API team. Nice to have you all with me today. It's a happy Tuesday morning. It's nice and sunny here in Seattle. What happened?
It's beautiful weather here, and it's going to remain this way for a couple of days, I think.
So I'd like to introduce you also to my buddy Jeff Meisner. Jeff is my counterpart in the marketing organization here. Jeff?
Morning, everybody. Great to have you on Office Hours with AvaTax.
Hey, so for those of you who are joining for the first time, this is a recurring series of webinars that we hold every Tuesday morning, Seattle time. And we're going to talk about some development topics and some things that people might want to know about AvaTax. But we also offer you the opportunity to ask questions anytime you like. So at any point during this conversation, please feel free to put a question in the chat window. And Jeff Meisner will flag me over and make sure that I stop talking long enough to actually listen for once.
Please ask questions.
Yeah. All right. So for today, I just wanted to say thank you for those of you who attended Crush in Washington, D.C., which is our annual user conference. Next year, it's going to be in bright, sunny Huntington Beach, which is actually a place I spent a lot of time in my youth. But for today's topic, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the AvaTax software development kit. So Avalara provides software development kits just to make our software a little bit easier. I mean, tax is not easy. Like, nobody goes into this saying, oh, gee, I'm excited. Now I get to write tax software. I mean, how many times do you hear that in your calls?
Not that often.
So anyway, the whole point of this is we want to do what we can to make things a little bit easier. So we have tons of good documentation out there. We have very detailed API reference documentation for everything that you want to do with AvaTax. We have a whole bunch of useful information. You can go directly into our developer documentation, and you can immediately try out API calls. Just use sample data and submit. You'll immediately see how AvaTax works. But when you're actually ready to get started, it can take a little bit of time and effort just to jump in and begin. And really, you know, my experience is that just getting over that first hurdle, getting over the first step of connecting to someone's API is usually the burden. You know, usually that's the most difficult part. So what we decided to do is, you know, of course, we worked really hard on this documentation. Of course, we wrote this fantastic 11-chapter developer guide, which I'm extremely proud of. But we also spent a lot of time developing software development kits. And these software development kits are available via package managers. The goal of this is that most modern software development tools will allow you to download a software development kit automatically without any extra work on your part. So what I'm going to do today for today's chat is I'm going to walk you through my personal favorite programming language, which happens to be C#. And I'm going to show you how we use the C# software development kit. So briefly, C# uses a really interesting technology called NewGet. NewGet is one of the package managers. It's one that I happen to like a lot. It's got a lot of interesting and powerful caching features so that your downloads come through very easily. It has versioning and version independence and things like that. So we're actually really excited about this. We publish a new software development kit to NewGet every single month. So no matter what, rain or shine, every month we're publishing an updated software development kit, and we give you the opportunity to update anytime you like. So in the practical world, what does this mean? Well, depending upon what software programming language you're using, whether it's C#, Java, JavaScript, Python, PHP, or Ruby, any of those languages have software development kits for you. And each one of those languages also has a package manager that will actually give you the ability to download it directly into your programming environment. So today, I happen to be using Visual Studio for Mac, which I think is a fun little test because Visual Studio for the Mac has a couple differences from Visual Studio for the PC. What I'm going to show you is how to start a project and how to download the software development kit for C# and how to tie this into AvaTax. So we're going to start here by clicking New Project. And just for simplicity, I'm going to be using a console project. This gets rid of all of the user interface elements that can sometimes take a little bit of time during a demo. Just makes it quicker and easier for me to show you how the SDK works.
Hey, Ted, we've got a question.
Yes.
This is from Tommaso. I am using Ruby based on API example result, and then it looks like there's a batch of code here that you will probably have to see. Yeah, it's an error code, get tax error, no operations are allowed for an inactive company.
Okay. So actually, that's a key thing right there, is we try to work hard to make our error messages useful. So it sounds like what you have encountered is inactive company problem. So let me walk you through a little bit of how to look at this. Inside the AvaTax documentation, we have a list of all of the error codes for both SOAP and REST. And I think the one that you've just described is inactive company error.
He also mentioned, I'm sorry, that his default company is called, it just says default.
Yeah. So what we would encourage you to do is to check to see whether your company is flagged as active. So the way AvaTax works is that you have to set up a company, and you have to give that company a tax profile. In the United States, these tax profiles work via declaring nexus in different jurisdictions. So let me give you a quick example of how this works. I'm going to go on to sandbox. Sandbox.admin. I'm going to go ahead and log in here. This is a quick demonstration of how to create a company. I don't need to save this. This is just an account I created for today's demo. Let's go up here. This is the user interface that you could look at. And what you would do here is you would go into settings, and you would create a company, manage companies. I'm going to add a new company. So this company is going to be webinar 2018, 06, 19. Today's 19th, right?
It is.
Holy crumbs. I'm going on vacation in July. I'm super excited about that. It's getting really close. I'm going to put in my taxpayer ID number. I'm going to put in a street address. This is our old office location. And what you can do is you can choose, is this going to be a standalone company or a child company? We're going to make this a standalone company. Okay. Is this everywhere you need to collect tax? For me, yes. I'll click next. At this point, I have the choice to activate the company. So a company is inactive until you click this button in the user interface. When you activate your company, that's when your API call will become usable. So once I click this, now I can actually use this company to calculate tax. And I forget the question asker's name, but Tommaso, that's what you would need to do, is to activate your company.
Thanks for your question, Tommaso. If you have any follow-up questions, you can follow up with us via email. And I also just put the developer community forums in the chat area, so you should be able to get a response from someone there within, I think it was 2 business days.
Yeah, something like that. So final thing I want to mention is, under the hood, everything that you can do in the AvaTax website is available via an API. What that API is actually doing is this API call here called update company. What you're doing is you're updating the company, and you're setting its active flag to true. So if you wanted to activate your company via the API rather than through the user interface, you could do it this way. But given that you're only going to activate the company once, I think the user interface is probably easier.
Tommaso mentioned that he is set to test company, and taxpayer ID is also set.
Yeah, that should be fine. You'll just have to set the is active flag. All right, so continuing on, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start a simple project, and I'm just going to walk you through how we can retrieve the software development kit for C# and how we can use it for our tax calculation. So I'm going to call this webinar demo.
I love how you just spin this stuff up super fast, like on the fly.
It helps that I do it all the time.
Yeah.
If I didn't do this every single hour of the day, it would be a lot harder. So in the meantime, all right, so what I've got is I've got a very simple program here. I'm going to go ahead and execute it. It's not super great. It's just, hello world. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go in, we're going to change this program, and we're going to add AvaTax to it. So in Visual Studio, this is how you use the package manager. What you're doing is you're going to go to Add. There we go. You have to click on the project first. Add NewGet packages. So regardless of what programming language you're using, whether it's Ruby or JavaScript or Python, they all have something a little bit like this. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into your package manager, and you're going to search for AvaTax. Ta-da. And I'm going to go ahead and add this. Now, usually, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to tell me, oh, I guess it's gotten faster at downloading everything. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use AvaTax. Okay, so this is how in C# I construct a client. So as you can see right here, I'm getting context-sensitive help from the AvaTax software development kit. What it's doing is it's telling me, first of all, I have to type in the app name. Well, this is going to be my demo, webinar demo app. My app version is going to be 1.0. My machine name, well, why do I have to type in my machine name? The answer is you don't. It's totally not necessary. However, every once in a while, you might be on the phone with Avalara's customer support, and you might want to say, hey, one of my machines is uploading the wrong data. Can you tell me which one? If you do this, Avalara's support can tell you and can show you via your API calls which machine is making certain API calls. We've occasionally had customers saying, we found 10 bad transactions in our monthly report. Who uploaded them? And then what they would be able to do is to use the machine name to track down who uploaded them. So in order to make that possible, I will use a feature of C# called environment machine name. Now, this is totally optional, and for some people that may not be what they want to do, so feel free to leave that value null. But for me, I like debugging, so I'm just going to include it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to specify the environment. Here, let me wrap this line so you can see it. I'm going to specify sandbox. Jeff, do you have a good way to explain to people what's the difference between production and sandbox?
I do not.
You should really work on that, man. Aren't you the marketing guy here? All right. So anyways, the quick story here is that Avalara has always been an enterprise and medium and small business company. We deal with customers of all kinds. And we've talked to a lot of customers for whom anything that affects their accounting practice is considered business critical. So that means every time we update AvaTax, we do this basically once every month. Every time we update AvaTax, they want to know exactly when we're updating the software, and they want to have a chance to preview those changes. So some enterprise companies insist on having weeks of testing. Other companies just say, oh, well, we need advance notice. Well, we've settled on a 2-week period. So every time we release new software, we publish a patch note that describes how this API has changed. We give you a list of all of the bugs and features that are included in the API, and we tell you that the software is deploying to Sandbox 2 weeks before it goes to production. So that gives a large company the ability to test in Sandbox first before they go to production. Now this is a little bit, a little bit tricky for some people to get. So what we do is we provide features to make this easy. You can choose in your software development kit whether you're connecting to Sandbox or production. And additionally, by doing this, you can ensure, you can either control the environment you connect to via dependency injection or some other programming technology. I won't go off on this too much because there might be some non-programmers here listening on the call. But there's a lot of things you can do when you choose environments dynamically. All right, so now I've got AvaTax, and I've got a client. Let's see. Let's see what happens when I ping the server. Okay. Let's see. All right. Actually, I think I can just do this ping result up. Okay, let's see what happens now. What I've done is I've added a call to ping. Well, what is ping? Ping is an API that tests connectivity and the version number of the service. All right, well, let's see what happens.
Hey, Ted, Tommaso would like to follow up with you via email. Is that okay?
Actually, Tommaso, the thing you would do is go ahead and post a question on the forums, on the developer community forums. I'm not always easy to get a hold of during the day, but I do have team members that are available to help you out. So if you go to resources and help forum right here, you can post your question directly on the forum. You can just go ahead and write a post. One of my team members will respond to you right away. I just go ahead and remove the async just so I can avoid this. I guess one challenge here is maybe I don't do this quite as often as I think.
Maybe you should, Ted.
Stop lecturing me. All right, so actually what you see right here is that I have now connected to the software. So I made an API call to AvaTax, and AvaTax told me that the server that I connected to is version 18.6. There you go. I am not authenticated. Authenticated is false. That's interesting. So next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to connect with credentials. So how do I do that? I happen to have set up an account for this test. Here's my account. Let's go ahead and try this exact same thing. Ta-da! Now I'm authenticated. So the real reason we do this SDK is just to make this part easier. There are an awful lot of people who, it takes a little bit of time to get connected. It takes a little bit of time to start using AvaTax. And what we want to do is we just want to make this as simple as possible. Now, another thing that, my programmers taught me, which I've been liking, is you can actually chain these function calls together. So what you can do here is you can just have a single compound call. I think they called this the Fluent Client Builder. So by chaining these things together, it just makes your code a little bit easier to read. Create the client and set up security. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use this same Fluent connection to actually construct a transaction. So constructing transactions is what everyone really wants AvaTax to do. We calculate tax in real-world scenarios on transactions. And a transaction can be an estimate, or it could be an invoice, or it could be a refund. But what we're going to do is we're going to use a transaction builder. Let's go ahead and add this reference in here. That'll just reduce our namespace. So we're going to construct a transaction builder. Well, the transaction builder is just a very quick, simple way of calculating tax in AvaTax. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to give it the client. Next, you see that we need to provide the company code. Well, I happen to have a company called Default. Well, then you have to figure out what kind of document you want. Well, take a look. Every one of these documents, look at this. We've got full documentation for every choice. This is the thing that I love the most.
This is a really cool feature. It's like right in line, yeah.
I want documentation to be right there at hand. If you use our software development kit, every single bit of documentation that I've written for the website is directly there in your software development kit. For this, I'm going to do a sales order. What is a sales order? It's an estimate or a sales order or a quote. This document type is used before a sale has occurred to estimate the amount of tax to be paid. So this is the kind of thing that we need to emphasize to everyone. We're going to GeekWire in a week or two, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
We should definitely show this off.
Yeah.
All right. Final thing we're going to specify is the customer code. Well, all right. Let's say my customer is code ABC. So now I've got a transaction builder. What is my transaction builder going to do? Well, I'm going to add an invoice line. Jeff, what did you buy last? Donuts?
No.
Coffee?
Charcoal for a new charcoal grill that I bought.
How much did it cost?
It was $20 for 2 of those big Kingsford packages.
So $20.99, let's say. Quantity is 1. You said 2 packages?
I bought 2 packages.
Okay. So here's an interesting thing. This is worth mentioning. In AvaTax, the quantity field and the amount field are easy to confuse. We ask for you to provide the total amount of the transaction. Let's see if I can get the documentation to pop up. I think we've improved this in the next round of the SDK. But this is the total line amount, not the per each amount. So if you bought 2 items and the total price was $20.99, or let's say it was $10.99 each,
yeah,
it would be $21.98, right? So you want the total amount here. The quantity is less important. There are some taxes that are affected by the quantity, but not as many. So the next thing we're going to do is tax code. All right, what is the tax code for charcoal? Let's find out. We have a website here called taxcode.avatax.avalara.com. And in this, you can search for something. Let's see if we have one for charcoal. Hey, there we go.
Ew.
Did you buy any lighter fluid?
No, because I also bought a charcoal chimney starter so that my meat won't taste like lighter fluid.
There you go. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to purchase $21.98 of charcoal, right?
Yep.
We can put in a description if we want, but that's entirely optional. We don't need to put in an item code. We don't need to put in a usage type. I can explain what those are later if anyone's curious. Now, the next thing is, what's an address? Where did you buy this? At a grocery store?
I bought it at Home Depot in Woodinville.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and specify an address. Let's search for Home Depot in maybe this one, Bothell?
That's it.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out the tax that our buddy Jeff Meisner would have paid for his charcoal. Okay, so there's line 1. My mistake. All right. Actually, I have to explain a different thing first. First of all, you actually need to know what type of address this is. If you purchase it at retail, retail is a situation called single location. Single location means that you were physically present,
yep.
You handed someone your credit card or some cash, they handed you a product, transaction is done. On the other hand, if this was a scenario where you were shipping, there would be 2 addresses involved, the ship from and the ship to address. There are some companies for whom additional address types are also needed, but frankly, those are really tricky, and those mostly involve situations where people have decided to create special taxes for phone banks. Okay. So really, those things are less critical.
This sounds like a single location.
This is definitely a single location. So now we're going to put in the line 1. That's line 1. Line 2, line 3. We don't need a line 2 and line 3. That's totally not necessary. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the city. Region, postal code, and country. All right, so what we've done is we've specified that we are selling $21.98 of charcoal in this address in Bothell, Washington. All right, There we go. Now we're going to go ahead and create this transaction. Let's go ahead and put a breakpoint here. All right, let's see what happens. You paid $2.20 tax.
Sounds about right.
I mean, it's basically 10% is roughly what you're paying.
Yep.
So this is really the basics of AvaTax. Now, obviously, if you wanted to, you could copy this line 100 times. You could add lighter fluid. You could add, a stick of gum.
I don't use lighter fluid, Ted.
Come on, man. Work with me.
If you want your steak to taste like lighter fluid.
This is my demo. Are you out here demoing software to people?
I can't write a line of code.
You come to my house and okay. But anyways, this is basically the idea of AvaTax. AvaTax is just like this, but without the bickering. So you get lines, get addresses. If you wanted to, you could actually specify multiple addresses. Let's say you shipped it from 2000 Main Street, Irvine, CA, 924. And of course, this happens to be the address of the office park that used to be the Taco Bell headquarters. I used to go visit there. It was great. They had a test kitchen. It was awesome. So anyways, if you had something shipped from Taco Bell headquarters to you, the calculation would be shipped from and shipped to. If you wanted to do something else interesting, like let's say you purchased the charcoal at retail, and then you had, let's say you spent $50 for one gift. And let's say you had the gift shipped, but the charcoal was purchased directly. What you would do is you would specify with line address. And so line address would mean that your overall transaction was at this main address, but this one specific line was at this specific address. So now all of a sudden you'll get taxed both for the charcoal that you purchased over the counter and the gift that you ordered from California.
Hey, Ted, we've got 3 minutes left and we've got a couple of questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so question number 1 is, can I use .NET Core with AvaTax?
Yes, I'm pretty sure. I haven't double-checked this, but I'm pretty sure this test class is actually .NET Core. I wasn't paying close enough attention when I picked the project that I started with, but we support all versions of .NET from .NET 2.0 and up. And if you encounter any case where we're have compatibility problems, we'd love to hear from it. Please go onto the community forums and post because I want to know about these things. One of the nuisances about the .NET world is that all of their version numbers went a little bit sideways. There's .NET Core numbers, and there's .NET numbers, and then there's .NET Standard numbers, and so forth. And those things are just getting a little bit time-consuming for me to keep track of, but I'm assured by people that they make sense to someone. So in general, yes, but if you encounter any environment that doesn't work, please let us know. We want to fix it.
Cool. And next question is the AvaTax SDK for C# async?
Yes, although my demo did not use async. Let me actually see if I can switch it really quickly. Async is a really interesting feature of C#, and what it allows you to do, let's switch this to 471. What it allows you to do is to reduce your thread usage. So let's go ahead and wait. Okay, let's see if this works. Oh, please update language version. All right, what did I do? Did I not set it up correctly? There we go. Yeah, So as long as you set your version numbers correctly, which I completely failed to do the first time around, this will definitely work. Async is a great technology. It allows you to reduce your thread usage, and it's actually providing us with very significant benefits on the server side as well. So we definitely encourage you. In fact, we are considering making the entire SDK completely async for all versions of .NET 4.5 and up. But that's a topic for a later chat. I think we've just run out of time, so I just want to thank everyone for joining and listening to us. I'm glad we got a chance to go through the basics of calculating tax, and I hope we'll hear from you on the forums. So thank you very much for the time, and I appreciate you spending a little bit of your morning with us.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ted.